Thank you. Great introduction. Thank you for inviting me. And Chris, really looking forward to see how TELUS is addressing some of the capabilities and trends that I'm going to describe in the next few minutes. So I'm going to start by sharing this slide with all of you, where we're showing that a few years ago, economists from Economic Intelligence Unit, Morningstar, and PitchBook predicted that insight-driven businesses, now these are, we are going to explain what insight-driven means in a couple of minutes, but these insight-driven businesses were predicted to grow, to outgrow competition 8 to 10 times. Now that's not 8 to 10% faster, it's 8 to 10 times faster than competition, than global economy, than industry averages. And today we actually have some absolutely amazing tangible proof for that. What do we mean by insights-driven business? Well, a lot of you on the phone, and I do know this because I talk to literally hundreds of you every year. So over the last few years, at least 1,000 conversations. So when I say that a lot of you, I definitely can back it up with lots and lots of evidence. Most of you on the phone are still at the stage that we call data driven. So yes, you are getting some signals from your data, and maybe you can even kind of go a little bit deeper and observe and explore and then discover insights from those signals. So somewhere between the step 2 and 3 on this slide is where we see most of you out there kind of reach the limit of your capabilities, but we want you to go further. We want you to start experimenting with the insights that you get and refining them and validating them and continuously optimizing them. We want you to scale the insights and embed them and deliver them at the edge. And when I say embed at the edge, I don't mean IoT devices, I mean all of the business applications. So that every single knowledge worker, every single decision maker, not necessarily a data analyst, can take advantage of these insights wherever they live. All of the ERP, CRM, productivity applications, et cetera, et cetera. That's where you can really take data-driven capabilities to the next level, and you can actually start making decisions based on those insights, and you can start acting on them, right? So a decision without an action, or decision and an action that you can't really link are problematic. So it is this entire lineage from data to signals to insights to decisions to actions, and understanding how those actions affect tangible business outcomes, learning from this process and continuously improving and optimizing is really at the crux of all insights-driven business capabilities. Now, AI, we will talk about areas where AI makes it somewhat less difficult, but in some sense, AI brings additional challenges because not only do you need to go through that cycle for data, but when machine learning models get involved in that cycle, now you are creating these models and you're training these models, and you need to understand whether these models are accurate continuously, whether there is a accuracy drift in the model. So we'll talk about the concept of model ops and how that applies to augmented BI. But now with the introduction of AI, we call this insight-driven business capability. Now we call these connected intelligence. But the same concept, from data to signals to insights, to decisions, to actions, and tangible business outcomes. And if you are indeed successful at doing everything that I just talked about, the benefits are absolutely amazing. So there is some correlational evidence of what I shared with you on the first slide, that if you are indeed have achieved advanced capabilities, that you are almost 3 times more likely to be growing double digits year over year. You are 5 times more likely to be growing at 20% or more year over year. So definitely a confirmation that investing in these capabilities is going to allow you to outpace competition. And we also do see very tangible, right? So there is, in addition to this correlational evidence, there is also tangible evidence on the ROI We will look at multiple case studies every year, and that's the range that has materialized. And these are not just investments in technology, because just investing in technology without appropriate investments into people, process, data architecture, etc., are not going to pay off. So when you invest holistically in the entire and all of the competencies required for this, you can typically expect 2 to 6 times a return on your investment. And we see some companies successfully showing this ROI as quickly as a few months. So this is great stuff. We definitely want you all to be taking advantage of this. Now, that's kind of the futuristic picture. That's the rosy picture. The down on the ground, down in the trenches reality today is far from that pretty picture that I painted in the first few slides. Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase before. We've got data, but we're starving for insights. Where do we get actionable, insightful information in our data? So yes, indeed, most of you are still at this beginner stage of this journey. And partially what this means is that we see no more than 20% of all enterprise decision makers, all enterprise knowledge workers who could be using enterprise grade BI tools are using them. There are multiple reasons for this. We'll go into some of them later in the presentation, but that's part of this low maturity curve, is that adoption and penetration is still somewhere at the 20% level. So the big billion or even $1 trillion question: how do we go above and beyond that 20% penetration layer? So let's see if we can provide you with some actionable advice on how to take some of the next steps. So on this slide, and please forgive us for a small font, but you'll get this deck as a follow-up, so you can use a magnifying glass to look at the differences that we outline between data-aware, data-driven, and insights-driven firms. But basically, this is a high-level summarization of top 5 insights-driven business capabilities of advanced enterprises. So first of all, investments into these capabilities need to be strategic, right? These are not afterthoughts. It's not like you're asking for some budget towards the end of the year. No, these are strategic. These should be on your CFO annual strategic investment plans, and unless the directive and the interest and the budgets and allocations come from the C-suite, this is not going to work. But when it does work, when you do get funding for this, and when you do deploy this, you need to deploy this at the edge. And again, just confirming that by edge, I mean embedded in all a business ERP, CRM, financial, HR, email, calendar, et cetera, applications, because this is where business professionals who need to make data-driven decisions, this is where they live, right? They don't live in BI platforms, they live in business applications. So in addition to, right, this is not instead of, this is in addition to delivering insights in BI platforms, we want you to start embedding those insights into all of the business applications. And that's where you can take the next step and follow the third principle, that insights must be actionable, right? The decision is great, prescriptive insight is great, but how do you trace the lineage between the insight that you get and the prescriptive advice that you get and the actual action that you take in a business application, like order more inventory or change campaign campaign parameters. So once again, by embedding insights into business applications, you can connect, you can do that full lineage from data to signals, insights, decisions and actions and tangible business outcomes. And when you do that, you can then adhere to the fourth principle, is that learning and experimenting must be continuous. As I said, no one gets it right on the first try. It does take multiple tries, and as a matter of fact, this learning and improvement never stops. So do create an environment where you are indeed able to trace that end-to-end lineage and take appropriate corrective, optimization, etc. actions. And by the way, last but not least, do not rely on your data pros, your data professional colleagues to do this. Yeah, they can maybe do 20%, right? Remember that 20% penetration, that's where it still sits. We really want you, the business pro, customer experience professional, campaign manager, HR manager, financial planner, et cetera, et cetera. We want you to be able to get up to 80% of all of the insights from data, and only rely on your data professionals for no more than 20%. That if you're able to do that, that's when you will start penetrating the 20% barrier that we currently see. It indeed must be a team sport. So I already mentioned that this is not just technology. Technology is only 1/5 of all of the competencies, or all of the 5 competencies that are required here. So you need to strategize, you need to communicate, you need to change your culture, etc., etc. So you start with strategy, and then you follow up with people, the right organizational structure, the right hiring process, adjusting the roles and responsibilities, and making sure you have the right skills, and the process, creating new processes for governance of AI and BI and data and analytics, and architecting your data correctly, and investing in data quality, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of work needs to be done before you can really start reaping the benefits from BI and augmented BI technology. So I can talk for probably days, if not weeks, on the other topics, but today, for the next 10 or 20 minutes, I'm going to concentrate just on the technology part. And I'll start by sharing a humorous experience with all of you that has often, not too often, but sometimes I do get this funny question. Boris, Forrester, with all of the advancements in AI and machine learning, do we really still need an enterprise BI platform? So the question is well-intentioned, right? It has the right intention, but it's just phrased inappropriately or incorrectly. The right question is there something that AI can do to further democratize access to data, to provide deeper insights and provide broader access so that we can break through that 20% barrier? And the answer is, I hope so. We don't know, but all of the indications, because this is still very early, but all of the indications are that's where the trend is. So for simplicity's sake, just very quick a definition of what augmented BI is, right? Just you take a pinch of business intelligence, you add another, pinch of artificial intelligence, and you get augmented BI, right? That's very simplistic way of thinking about it. A better way to think about it is in 2 dimensions. So the first dimension is, how do you leverage technology to provide deeper insights, because legacy BI platforms and apps did a decent job at diagnostic and descriptive analytics, but whenever you needed anything advanced, you had to pick up the phone and call your colleague, data science colleague, or call consultants. But a modern augmented BI platforms can indeed, with a single click, literally, you do not need to have any, you need to have some training, but very, very minimal. But literally with a single click, you can make a prediction, you can identify a correlation, you can forecast, you can understand how the top influencers or drivers on a metric, you can identify an anomaly, and in addition to getting deeper insights, now we're opening up, we're broadening, we're democratizing access to analytics beyond just code, right? Obviously, no business person is expected to be able to code. And then 20 years ago, we introduced GUI-based point and click, drag and drop type of environment. We hoped back then that was going to increase adoption of these tools. And yes, indeed, it did, but only to a certain level, that 20% penetration adoption level, what I keep bringing up. So we are hoping, we're really hoping and counting, and all of the indications so far support this, that conversational cognitive UI will even further open up that access beyond the 20%. So think of it this way. Business pros used to rely on data pros for anything beyond basic analytics, and even data pros relied on their data science colleagues for anything beyond just diagnostic and descriptive analytics. But with augmented BI capabilities enabled by augmented BI platforms and analytics, any business professional can become a data professional, and both data professionals and business professionals can today be citizen data scientists. Again, some great correlational evidence that those who are already advanced in their overall, the higher level insight-driven business capabilities are much more likely to be already deploying these technologies such as augmented BI platforms and natural language generation. So if you don't hop on that train now, you're going to be left behind. Now, that train isn't going to provide you a smooth journey unless you are aware and plan carefully and take care of all of the potential pitfalls. Unlike BI, core BI, which is about at least 30 years old, so it's a very mature, very stable technology. AI is relatively new. And therefore, one of the top challenges that we hear from our clients about AI is technology. The top challenges with traditional BI are, were and still are people, process, data, not really technology. But with augmented BI, concerns about technologies are coming back, and our research definitely confirms this. So let's kind of dive into this because nothing comes without a cost. And as a matter of fact, I can probably calm some of your nervousness. I do get questions from clients who say, "Oh, Boris, with all of these great augmented BI capabilities that you just demonstrated, are we still going to need data engineers and data scientists, etc.? Aren't those jobs disappearing?" And while I'm not an expert in robotics or any other aspects of AI within this domain, I can absolutely tell you that no, those jobs are not going away. Skills maybe different skills may be required, and roles and responsibilities may be changing and shifting. But the bottom line that in order to reap all these benefits, empowering citizen data scientists, providing easier access, easier UX via natural language to query, and supplying better insights and deeper insights to all professionals, business professionals via NLG, is not going to come. All these benefits are not going to come without cost. There is definitely some effort that's going to that you will need to invest to get it just right. So let's spend a decent amount of time talking about what it is that all of you need to do to get all of the benefits from augmented BI that I just talked about. So benefits are there. They're just not plug and play. You do need to do some work. So first of all, machine learning. Right, great capabilities, and I know Chris is going to show some pretty cool stuff in terms of predictions and forecasts and anomaly detection. But machine learning model requires some tender loving care. Right, you need to understand what's under the covers. You need to understand whether it's behaving the way the vendor intended it to behave based on your data, right? Because the vendor trained that model on their data. They didn't train the model on your data. So is there automated training going on in the background? Is it being trained appropriately? Is the accuracy shifting, or is it pretty steady regardless of how data is changing? So basically everything that data professionals and data scientists have always known for ages as model ops, how to really operationalize machine learning, still applies here. Some of it is happening under the covers, but when you scale this across the enterprise and deliver this to hundreds of thousands of your users, and you do this not on a small data set for one use case, but you run this on large data sets, and for all of your domain use cases, that this model ops and how well it's going to scale is going to be important. Scalability will come into, and technical architecture will come into play, right? That's why the jobs of data engineers and technical engineers and architects are not going away, because they will need to plan. What if you have a multi-billion row data set that changes every second, let's say, and that data may be different from yesterday's data. So if you don't retrain the machine learning algorithm as frequently as necessary, it's going to get less accurate. So now you have a choice, right? There's a balance. Remember a balanced scale on the previous slide. You can keep retraining it in real time, but that'll probably be a resource hog, and your queries are going to slow down. Or you can choose to retrain it on some kind of a batch cycle, but then the model accuracy will probably drift towards the beginning of the new batch cycle. So again, this requires careful planning and architecting. NLQ sounds like a great new business user-friendly experience. Yes, but not without an effort. First of all, I don't really like to use the search term, the term search. Obviously, feel free to continue to use it. It is very popular, search-based BI, but just be aware that NLQ is not search. Search is fuzzy. NLQ has to be 100% accurate. When you search for a news article or any kind of news, if you find something similar, and if that finding is on page 3 of Google search results, that's probably good enough. But if you ask a question of your BI system, how many widgets did I sell yesterday, and why did I sell fewer than the day before? There are only 2 correct answers to those 2 questions, right? Only one correct answer to how many did I sell, and only one correct answer as to what was the top influencer, top driver of that sales metric. So how do you make sure that NLQ actually provides only correct answers and only appropriate answers? Well, think about 2 ends of the extreme, right? On the one end extreme, all of you in large enterprises have data warehouses and data lakes with thousands of data entities. And each data entity can be sliced and diced by hundreds of attributes. So imagine, because under the covers, NLQ is search, right? Even though I don't like to use the term search, but it is a search-based index. Or index-based search rather, and what you need to do is you need to index all of your data entities and attributes. Well, if you blindly, without any kind of planning, just index all of these thousands of entities and attributes, I can pretty much guarantee that when you start asking these NLQ-based questions, you'll probably get some correct answers, but you're also going to get a lot of inappropriate, distracting, or irrelevant answers, right? That may lead you in a direction that you really didn't intend to take. So I call this noise, right? NLQ can, but without proper planning, can generate a lot of noise, and therefore, that noise may interfere with all of the benefits that NLQ is providing. So that's one end of the extreme. The other end of the extreme is rolling up your sleeves, right? Now going back to data engineers. Remember, these jobs don't go away, and have your data engineer still sit down with your business analyst and the end user and define, well, what are the good use cases, the appropriate use cases for NLQ-based analytics. Let's define them. Let's cherry pick. Let's carefully pick what data entities and attributes we do index and open up for NLQ. And therefore, when this is deployed in production, your business users are only getting correct answers to their questions, right? There is no noise. There is no 2 + 2 will always equal 4. But that means that we're going to go back to square one. It will require a planning and implementation and trial and error, right? So these jobs and the efforts do not go away. Technical architecture, once again, comes into play. Technical architects are still going to be valuable because NLQ has the same issues and challenges as machine learning models. How do you scale it? Do you refresh the index every second? It's going to be a resource hog, or do you refresh it once an hour? If you do the latter, then your NLQ results are going to get out of sync with your real SQL results, right? They'll be an hour behind, so you don't want that. Once again, good old planning, strategizing, architecting, architecture and planning, those do not go away. Lesser of a challenge for NLG, but I just wanted to plant the seed in your mind that we do see two types of NLG technologies out there. One is based on rules and templates. The other one is based on machine learning. And then we do see some vendors using a bit of both approaches. Now, rules and templates are great for customization. The same question by two different users, two different personas may generate not two different answers, but two different levels of explanation. Somebody may need a less verbose explanation. Somebody else may need a more verbose answer. So with rules and templates, you have full customization capability. You can create any templates, you can create any rules, but once again, we're back to square one, where this requires planning and building and deploying and maintaining and improving and enhancing when it's required. Machine learning-based NLG just comes out of the box with some of these platforms, does not require any tender loving care or planning, but it's typically limited to very short paragraphs, kind of a very laconic, a lot less verbosity, and you don't have a lot of control. Some vendors give you some very small control in terms of increased verbosity or decreased verbosity, but basically you're at the mercy of the vendor as to what kind of explanations are provided based on each NLQ type question. So these are some of the challenges that you'll need to go through to reap all of the benefits that I spent the last 10 or 20 minutes talking about on previous slide. So I'm going to wrap it up and pass it to Chris soon by showing you, obviously there are tons and tons of recommendations that we can provide to all of you, but if I were to summarize like one or two recommendations based on your maturity level, I would say that at the beginner stage, you really need to make sure that that your strategy and people and process and data are in the right place, that there are strategic investments into this, and that you are investing time and effort and money into data architecture and data quality, because garbage in, garbage out, obviously you all know this. So a big question is, are you even ready for an augmented BI platform? Because deeper insights on data that hasn't been cleaned is not a good thing, right? So invest in the strategic people, process, data before you jump into this. But as you advance and you start deploying these augmented BI platforms, as I said, no one gets it right on the first time. So eating your own dog food, and what I mean by that, we all want our business counterparts to run their business by the numbers. Well, why should we be running our BI business by the numbers? So deploy a capability that we call BI on BI or analytics on analytics. So what are the usage patterns? How are your business partners using the applications? Are they using it frequently, infrequently? Why? Why are more senior people using it less frequently than less senior people? Why is it still that data analysts are using the technology as opposed to business pros, right? You need to have all of these tangible metrics, usage metrics for analysis, so that you can understand what works and what doesn't. And that's when you understand what works and what doesn't, that's when you can start scaling your augmented BI across the enterprise. Or if you don't have an augmented BI platform, that's when it's time to invest in one. And when you reach an advanced stage, you can't rest on your laurels, right? The hard work never stops, because that's when you need to start investing into what we call embedded BI, turning insights into actions. And that's when you need to start embedding all of the analytical capabilities into all of the business applications that I talked about, so that they can be delivered at the edge and be pervasive, so that you can now start drawing that full lineage from data to actions and learning and improving. And whenever you get some of it right, that's when you scale this across the enterprise. So with that, I'm going to wrap up my portion. I'm going to turn this over to Chris. And Chris, really curious to see how Telis addresses some of the trends and requirements and the gotchas that I talked about in the last 20 minutes. Over to you, Chris.